Folks, if you would, please, we'd like to call the meeting to order and get started. We don't have a council president this evening, so after the clerk calls the roll, we'll deal with that. Lauren?
This is the meeting of the Township of Vernon for Monday, July 14, 2014. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 8, 2014. It was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7. Councilmember Kadish.
Here.
Councilmember Murphy.
Here.
Councilmember Rizzuto.
Here.
Councilmember Wetzel.
Here.
Council President Lynch.
Okay. Let's have a salute to the flag, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I make a motion to elect Patrick Rizzuto as acting council president.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Councilmember Kadish.
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy.
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto.
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel.
Yes.
Motion carries for council.
Good evening. This evening we will have a presentation, bear presentation to the Department of Public Works. Will the bear, yes, Mrs. and member of our public, or head of our Public Works Department, Dave.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Ms. Metzler. And we have with us also our Public Works, Dave Polis.
Hi, my name is Angie Metler. I'm the director of the Bear Education and Resource Program. And again, it has been my pleasure to be part of the statue project. I would also like to again extend my appreciation to Mayor Murata, to the Vernon Township Council, to all of you, and our thanks also to the police chief and to also Officer Kenneth Kazicki, sorry Ken, for being there on that day. But I'd also like to extend a special thank you to the Director of Public Works, David Polis.
Thank you.
And here is a small token of our appreciation for moving the statue to its permanent home.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to thank that other employees in his department. We have little magnetic things to the other men present there.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Metzler. May I have a motion to open the floor to public comment?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Kadish.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Wetzel. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. Floor is open. If you have any comments, please come forward and give us your name and the area of township that you reside. Please step forward to the podium.
Bob Gary, Vernon. It seems strange. A town spends years trying to get a good PR to say, people, this is an excellent town, come to us, we can take care of you. Businesses, this is a good town, come to us, we can take care of you. In one stroke, it's gone. Because of the PR that went out about Camp Sussex. And the only person that was here that had any brains went up there and tried to countermand it. And the controllers here on this board and on this municipality said, oh, no, we want to keep it going. Where's your brains?
Anybody else?
Can I ask, are the microphones on? Because it's really hard to hear.
I hear you very well.
How about now?
Good evening. My name is Krista Gary, and I just want to thank all the people in Vernon for signing my petitions and the petitions of the others on the Vernon Taxpayers Association. By doing so, every one of you has made a difference in this town. I know that there were some people who were afraid to sign for fear of reprisals. Unfortunately, this form of intimidation happened to Gary Mortensen by the police after he posted his findings of Camp Sussex on his website. He was threatened with legal action and told that he should turn over his equipment, his video footage, and photos. This incident should outrage everyone in our community. Gary is an honest, law-abiding citizen who just wanted to see the facts regarding Camp Sussex for himself. According to Sunday's New Jersey Herald, Mayor Murata had encouraged people to walk into the camp. Since there were no signs posted, and at the mayor's recommendation, Gary did just that. It's very sad that people resort to these strategies in order to silence others that don't agree with their agenda. Normally, I don't stand up for myself, but I want to say that as I was sitting in front of the A&P, someone went by in their car and called me a liar. I have never been called a liar by anyone before. This was said 3 times. The person also came by on 2 other occasions and yelled out something derogatory from her car. I am definitely not a liar, and for someone to say this is not only cruel, but it's a form of bullying. If anyone thinks this is going to curse me, they are mistaken. I think there are people in town who have a problem with anyone that has a different viewpoint from them. They want to shut down anyone who disagrees with them. This is definitely harassment. Are they that insecure that they have to resort to such tactics? This is definitely very childish. We should all be able to have a civil discourse with one another. There are always peaceful ways to solve problems. The Vernon Taxpayers Association, of which I am proud to say I am a member, is a group of dedicated individuals who are inspired to do what we believe is right. We are nonconformists who believe we all need to stand up for our rights as American citizens. We believe that government must work for people and be transparent and honest. And we will continue to stand by our convictions no matter what others may say. Those of us who shine a light into the darkening culture are being told that not only are we wrong, but that our opinions could only be motivated by hate and by nothing else. Therefore, our voices must be silenced. Our founding fathers created our open political system so that all people could have a voice in how we are governed. Thomas Jefferson declared no provision in our Constitution ought to be dearer to man than that which protects the rights of conscience against the enterprises of the civil authority. Why is Mayor Murata always saying unkind things about Sally Rinker? He wants to squash this very vocal dissenter. She is a thorn in his side and has been labeled as a troublemaker since she speaks the truth. Anyone who speaks up against the establishment is always labeled as such. Opponents wish to silence and discredit her. Sally Rinker is a very knowledgeable woman. She has never been anxious about taking a stand because of what actions the challenger may take. She is a wonderful, courageous woman whom I am proud to call my friend. She is not seeking revenge against Mayor Murata, as he and 3 of his council members always allude to. All she is doing is seeking justice. We should all take a good hard look at ourselves to see if we're not part of the problem in the community. It's easy to cast blame. It takes a bigger person to forgive. We should all try to love more. The Bible talks about love and its healing power and it being stronger than any other force. In the end, good will always triumph over evil and love over hate. Love never fails. The powerful play of life goes on, and we are all contributors to its verses. Let's all try to make those the best we can. Thank you very much.
Yes, anybody else? He said people is a beast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bev Buds, Vernon. I come before the mayor, the council, and the public this evening for only one reason, to set the record straight. I am deeply troubled and offended by recent articles I've been reading over the past 2 weeks. It seems that some individuals in Vernon are questioning the integrity of the entire Vernon Environmental Commission over a stock photo used to exemplify a representation of what the Camp Sussex property currently looks like and what the potential vision could be. On May 4th, Environmental Commission Vice Chairwoman Diane Wexler and I began to look inside some of the existing buildings at Camp Sussex. We stumbled upon what we now know is the infirmary. At that time, we had only our cell phones to take pictures and did not expect to find hypodermic needles inside a very dark building. We took what we thought were good pictures. However, when we sat down to create the first PowerPoint presentation, it became apparent that our pictures were just too dark and blurry. And because of a time restraint, I decided to use a stock photo from Getty Images, knowing full well that we would go back and do a photo shoot as soon as we both had the time. When presenting the PowerPoint on May 29th, we never stated the needle pictures were either stock or not. We were simply showing a representation of the property as it sits today while trying to convey a potential vision for the camp in the future. Many of the photos in our presentation were stock images. The mayor was aware of what we had found in the buildings, and we originally told him and the Environmental Commission that we had taken our own pictures. Neither the commission nor the mayor knew of the last-minute change, and we also did not remove the stock name from the image. At no time did we set out to deceive or trick the public, nor did we misrepresent the current state of the property, and we have dozens of dated photos that verify the condition of the property. Here is a quick list of what is being misrepresented to the Vernon residents, which I have personally heard at the supermarket where signatures are being gathered on a petition. The camp has underground oil tanks. This is false. There are no oil tanks on the property. There is a dam that will cost Vernon a fortune in the future. This is false. There is no dam on the property. There are currently numerous liens and fines on the property. This is false. There are no current liens or fines on the property. The camp's previous owners left the property with hypodermic needles on it. This is false. A company was contracted and hired to clean the camp of debris and garbage starting in 2008 through 2009. We have been in contact with them, and they have verified the infirmary had been cleaned out. The Open Space Fund will be depleted if we acquire the property. This is false. The Open Space Fund will not be depleted by the acquisition of Camp Sussex, not even close. In the past, when open space money was to be spent, the public decided on the properties by a ballot vote. This is absolutely false. None of the properties purchased by Vernon Township for open space with open space funds was done by vote of the public. I was not sure how to spell scourge. Well, they may have me on that one. The mayor and I have permission to be on the camp property. The Vernon police have documentation that verifies that. On May 12th, the mayor made a statement inviting people to come tour the camp. This statement was made in reference to a letter of invitation that was going to the neighbors residing around the camp property. Only those residents were invited at that time. Any other unauthorized entrance into the Camp Sussex property would constitute illegal trespassing. And that is the way it should be. As it is, an incident of illegal trespassing has already resulted in significant misinformation being put out to the public, as the dated photographs I submitted prove. There have already been additional acts of vandalism since that trespassing. I invited the Herald to come to see the property 3 times over the past 2 months, but they showed no interest and never called me. On the other hand, the Advertiser News immediately responded and took a tour with me. Being someone who spends half of my time fighting for environmental justice, I'm a big fan of the First Amendment. However, when asking the public to sign their names to a petition that freedom of speech allows you to promote, one should be honest and exercise the utmost responsibility. Unfortunately for Vernon residents, I've witnessed quite the opposite. I simply ask all of Vernon residents to give the mayor and the council the opportunity to tell you the truth before you put your name on a petition to stop the acquisition of Camp Sussex. Do not settle for second-hand fabrications. You deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wood. Yes.
Jesse Palladini, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm speaking tonight as a private citizen of Vernon Township. I just want to say tonight, how dare Gary Martinson of the so-called Vernon Zone Foundation make such a false and slanderous public statement about us, calling the mayor, council members, environmental commission members, and 2 police chiefs frauds, or even worse, demanding explanations, resignations, or dismissal. And Krista Gary, one of the petitioners, sending email to people saying, apparently Vernon Township did not appreciate the following video that Gary from the Nordic House put out on his website. I hope you can still watch it. They don't want anyone to see what is really going on there. In her email, she attached a link to Martinson's slanderous webcast, encouraging people to watch it. She sent this email to someone, who sent it to someone else, who sent it to someone else, who sent it to me. Who knows how far and wide this defamation was spread within the community? That is reckless defamation. Mary Ellen Visciconti, making the outrageous statement that this is all part of a conspiracy. And if all that is not bad enough, we now have Councilman Kadish's wife, Carol Gunn Kadish, posting daily on a hate forum in support of these people, praising them for their misinformation, but instead calling it excellent research and information. I believe the public is getting so much misinformation and downright lies from these people circulating the petition, it's disgusting. No one should dare call it democracy, as Mrs. Kadish does. My most important purpose for speaking tonight, however, is to say that about 5 years ago, I was invited by the construction site manager at Camp Sussex to see the excessive vandalism going on there. While I was there, I took dozens of photographs. There were no medical supplies left behind in the infirmary building, as has been alleged. Just several weeks ago, I went again to the site with the owner's permission and with Miss Buds, and I personally photographed the more than dozen hypodermic needles strewn throughout the rooms. Just over the past 2 weeks, I was in contact with the former site manager again, with the 2 architects from the firm that handled the cleanup of the camp, and with the owner of the remediation company himself. All of them have said, in writing, there were no needles or any medical supplies left behind in the infirmary. Everything was cleared out. In fact, when I went to the site nearly 5 years ago, the site manager told me that no sooner than they clean out the entire camp, the vandalism occurs all over again. I have photographs from then, and I have photographs from now. Today we know that these needles, whatever they are not confined to the infirmary building as Mr. Martinson falsely claimed. Recent photographic evidence after Mr. Martinson's trespass on the site proves that they are elsewhere on the site as well. In fact, vandalism at the site has heightened since Mr. Martinson's visit there, as is also documented in photographs that were taken very recently. I believe this is a site with chronic and persistent vandalism and youth congregation. I don't know what Mr. Martinson chose to see and talk about in his slanderous webcast, but the eyewitnesses who have gone there and the photographs that they have taken time and again do not lie. Mr. Martinson owes an apology to every person he slandered and defamed with his false and reckless presumptions and his so-called expose. And he owes every resident in this community an apology as well.
Thank you.
Well, I've heard my name enough, so Gary Martinson. First, a correction. The police did not say anything to me. That was the attorney from the property owners that suggested that, that made comments about my providing them the photos and video, anything else, and not to go there again, which they were required to do because until they do that, you're, I guess, technically not trespassing. To cover some of what actually was in this weekend's paper and seemed to be brought up again tonight, one of the articles is, I possibly did not see some stuff. That's possible. I did not cover every single inch of the entire grounds. However, the places I did go, where I was looking for evidence of heroin use, drug, that type of drug use, or any drug use for that matter, the needles that I did find, the only ones I saw, or actually the only syringes I saw, were in the infirmary, and that's what I took pictures of. So, fault me for that if you like. Now, it's suggested here, according to this article, and we all know that sometimes articles don't get everything exactly correct, but it suggests that the mayor disputed my assertion that the hypodermic needles found during my visit were likely to have been medical supplies left in the infirmary, and the camp was closed. And those were the only needles I could find. Well, yes, those were the only needles I could find. Later on, in that same article, which was by Mr. Eric Obenauer, the mayor is quoted as saying, "We have a letter from the company that indicates the infirmary was completely cleaned out. There was nothing medical left in that building, nothing, when they closed the camp down." And we just heard someone else who also mentioned that kind of a thing. I guess it's going to be a war of the photographs or whatever. I was also contacted this week, and I went and I checked, and it appears that the advertiser was already mentioned here, has in their photo albums from a 2011 article they did, photos of the infirmary that show lots of medical equipment still in there. So I don't know how that happens, but it was there, along with files of medical information. And there's lots of other photos, and some of those photos match what I have. So again, you could play photo tag. The one thing I would like to ask and suggest is that, if nothing else, we take down the photo that's out in the hallway that we know is not representative. I mean, those are not hypodermic needles that were found there. If you have the other photos, you want to put one of those up, that's okay, but, or put a disclaimer on there, a big disclaimer. And I think the skull and crossbones was a little over the top as well, especially since, and again, according to this article, and I'm glad it's here because in my memory from living here, I don't remember, fortunately, very, very fortunately, I don't ever remember a single incident of anyone having a heroin overdose up there or any other. I don't remember anyone dying up there. I don't remember anything, any evidence of someone, of a drug conviction up there. In fact, the only thing, according to one of our detectives, is that they found a marijuana, hash, whatever, related paraphernalia way back when. So I think the stretch was definitely that. And I'm sorry, but I can't apologize for that. Thank you.
Diane Wexler, Vernon. I only want to address a couple things here. We were accused of not doing our due diligence, of not looking at the property in an environmental perspective. In June of 2012, we were approached by the mayor and the Recreation Department to look at the property. We did do our due diligence. We went on the property. Individually, we had a meeting. Unfortunately, those minutes aren't posted, I don't think. But we spoke at great length about all the items that we found. I have 2 pages worth of Word documents of questionable items. We did do our due diligence. I want to talk to the First Amendment. I herald all of them for doing what they're doing and their First Amendment rights. But with all that privilege comes a tremendous amount of fiduciary responsibility to make sure what is coming out of your mouth is truthful. That's it. That's all I have to say. I can't believe all of the stuff that I have read. I can't believe all the stuff that I keep hearing. They're making up stuff because they don't know. They don't know because nobody has come to any of our meetings. I've been on the Environmental Commission since 2011, is that correct? And I have not seen any of their faces. So they're making up stuff.
Thank you.
I'm Bill Donald from Vernon, and I don't have a prepared speech. I happen to be a person who lives in Lake Panorama, and so I've driven right by the Camp Sussex many, many times. And I've got to tell you that I've seen over the years, and I'm talking about, I've been here for 27 years, and I have seen deterioration of that property from vandalism and such over the years. You can see the difference in the buildings over time. And I have to wonder why it is that anybody thinks that because an unguarded piece of vacant property might attract, young people to try to get away with something they shouldn't on that property should be a cause to block an action to make the property better or to reverse it. It makes no sense because what you're seeing, whether it's vandalism or it's kids smoking pot or whatever the heck is going on there, it doesn't matter because once the property is finally occupied by people with positive motives to do positive things for the community, then those kids won't have a place to go to where they won't be able to get away with it. So it's just it's a stupid and senseless argument. And if the petition that's coming out is going to try to block the township's effort to do something very, very good for the community on the basis of such statements, then I have to say that the petition and the petitioners and those who sign it are stupid. And my name is Bill Donald, and you can tell them I said so. Now, I want to add one thing before I sit down. For those of you who know me, you know I've been a lifelong teacher of theater. I am retired. I have spent time as a professional stage manager, and my 3 grown daughters are all have been in the business professionally. I can recall that years ago when they were first building the town center road, I tried suggesting that they might want to put a large multi-use theater performance space there as an art center, that it would do a lot for that town center road. It would attract a lot of business, a lot of activity, and be good for the town. Well, they didn't do it, and look at the road. It's vacant, nothing's happening there. I think I was right. But if there is going to be activity at this camp that's going to include arts activity, I got to tell you, I've seen all over this town a lot of money spent for athletic facilities and equipment and such in places, in a variety of places around this town. And I'm not putting that down. I was a cross-country runner in high school on a state championship team. My old man was a Golden Gloves boxer, and he taught me boxing, so I was also involved in some slap boxing in high school locker rooms, although that was illegal. We did it anyway when I was a kid. And my phys ed class used to do wrestle-offs during wrestling season according to weight class, with the wrestling team members not being allowed to participate. and for 4 successive years, I won my weight class. So I'm not opposed to athletics at all. But what I'm saying is that's not enough. There are an awful lot of people who would benefit so much from the other kinds of things that can be put
Excuse
there
me,
at
Mr.
Camp
Donald.
Sussex, including the arts.
Mr.
And
Donald.
I want to support it, and that's all I have to say.
One moment. I just wanted the meeting back there to terminate before you continue. Okay, you can continue. Thank you, please.
Sure. No, that's all I wanted to say. I just want to say that I hope everybody keeps their minds open to what can be done at that camp for everyone's benefit. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Heather Burns, Vernon. I didn't also write a speech, but I was here last time, and I'm here again, because again, we're talking, you brought it up, the arts. I keep seeing, I don't want to stand up here and badmouth people. I don't want to stand up here because it seems like it's the same cast of characters from both sides and the constant, as a person that lives in this town and been watching it for years. I've been here since 1989, and it's the same ridiculousness. But that being said, I'm here to hopefully talk a little bit more about the benefits of doing things for the entire community, with the community as a whole. After I spoke last council meeting about this, I've had numerous people approaching me about the ideas for that camp. In fact, today I had a Girl Scout leader talk to me and said, if the camp goes through, don't forget we have gold awards, and people that want to do their gold award projects. And I could go on for hours up here about the things that could happen for our community in a space like that. People talked about not having enough information. Well, I mean, obviously it's going to take some time to get some information, but I can tell you back in 2005, I've got the proposal that we had for that property on Main Street, how we would run a theater, and it wouldn't cost the taxpayers a cent for us to run that theater. At home, I have the entire layout from the architectural firm that back in 1998, when there was a township council for the arts who was trying to raise money for an art center in town. And all of this has been left to me because I'm the only thing that we have left. We are stuck as a theater company to one show a year because there is no space anywhere. Where I go, the high school. Do you know how often you can use the high school? 4 weeks. And I use them the whole time. Because the rest of the year, it's used for the school things, which I totally understand, and that's great. But we can't expand upon it. We can't expand upon it because there's no place to do it. I went to the camp. I mean, we're going to sit here and grind apples and oranges, and nobody had an overdose at Camp Sussex, so what are we going to do? Wait until one happens? Ignore the whole property until it happens? That's just ridiculous in my mind. We're supposed to be proactive, not reactive. Let's do something together as a group. Girl Scouts can benefit from this. Boy Scouts can benefit from this. They have to go to Franklin and Ogdensburg a lot of times to do their badges and to go camping because there's no place to do it around here. Except, you know, the woods. We could send them off into the woods, I guess. You have so many other people. You know, I'm on Facebook. I have the friends that go to, you know, concerts in the park. We don't have that here. What about, you know, plays in the park? There's so many different opportunities. If we had a space, I have all of the information to run a senior citizen production of shows. I could run a children's series of shows. We have children that have been doing our productions in the summer that have only been able to do stuff in the summer. We used to have 5 shows a year back in the day when we had this whole thing that we wanted to build that, you know, just one person after another would give us a promise and then, you know, they would no longer be on the council or what have you, or the business administrator got arrested, or I don't know what other nonsense that happened in the past. So again, here we are stuck in a situation where there is no space. If there was a space as a 501c3 company, we can help fund that space. There are other groups that can help maintain the property and fund the property. And if we have the money to spend, then I say let's do it and make the town better for everyone in the town. Not just bicyclers. I don't know. How about everyone? Heck, we could put a bike path right in Camp Sussex if that's what they really want, because that's what we keep seeing in the papers is they want a bike path. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but there is nothing for the arts in this town. And if you go onto the New Jersey State website and you look up, it actually says there's a New Jersey State Council for the Arts, and they have benefits of the arts right on there. And it says the millions of people who attend arts events spend twice their ticket price in the local economy. They give identity and character to towns and neighborhoods. They are catalysts for bringing people and neighborhoods together. Everybody needs to come together and make this work. Because in my opinion, it shouldn't be a matter of if we should do it, it should be a matter of how.
Thank you.
Sally Rinker, Vernon. I'm going to segue off the not if but how. I think that's part of the problem. Everybody's not connecting the dots here. It's not about attacking people and personalities and issues. It's about the fact that there has been a range of no information to misinformation. And we have now, photos that were from Camp Sussex, now they're not from Camp Sussex. Many people in the town are not buying the fact that if we go ahead and spend our open space money to purchase Camp Sussex, we're going to finish a drug problem either in Camp Sussex or anywhere else for that matter. It's a ridiculous stretch to make that connection. And no disrespect intended to anyone here, but you're not relating the cost of constructing a park to reality. And it would be nice to have some of the things that are spoken about. But, Ms. Wexler, I'm sorry, you did come forward 2 years ago with a nice list of concerns as an environmental commissioner, but we saw no environmental concerns this time around. That's a concern to a lot of us, that there's been a lot of disregard for the important facts in the situation. There's been a select method by which some people are included to take a trip into the camp, and other people are told they can't go because they're under, a legal challenge if they do go in there. It's just been it's been handled a total mess, and nobody trusts this issue anymore. All right. Councilwoman Murphy and Councilman Dan Kadish raised a lot of important questions, and not only were they not answered, it looked like they were not being respected with their questions either. And I'm sorry, there's too many of us out here that really see the reality of what's going on with how this council operates. So to that point, if you want to buy Camp Sussex, go buy it. Go raise the money. But there are many of us out here that feel the open space funds is not the answer. It's not an open space piece. It is a blighted property that is required to be cleaned up by the owners. And as a taxpayer and a representative of taxpayers here tonight, I'm telling you, we are not going to stand for utilizing the taxpayers' fund of open space money to buy something that you're not going to finish with that money. It's going to cost bonding, as was alluded to, that yes, it will cost the taxpayers at some soon point, because demolition, remediation, purchase money, and all this other nonsense is going to far exceed $1 million, I guarantee you standing here tonight. And I can tell you that when we did our petition, if Ms. Buds took the time to be a little more, mannered when you did come by almost every day to the AMP to heckle people.
Please address the council.
Yes, we would have been happy to show her what the petition said. And the petition is factual, and it's to the point. And all of you will get to read it shortly, because it was submitted at 3 o'clock today with more than sufficient signatures to either be voted on by this council or go to the ballot in November. And that is the First Amendment right for everyone. Thank you.
Good evening, Lynn Van Gorder, Barry Lakes. I'm not really prepared with a speech as well, but I do want to agree with the people tonight that we do need truth, we do need a plan, we need more information. My question tonight is this: if we're so concerned about the safety issues and the hazards that exist at Camp Sussex, then why has not one violation or a reinspection regarding the fire safety issues at Camp Sussex been completed since 2011? In the file, there's nothing in there since 2011. And if we're so concerned about all the hazardous conditions there, why are we not focusing on this for almost 3 years? That's a concern to me. So that's my question tonight. We need people to get information out to the public, and that's what we are lacking. And that's why the petition exists, because there's not enough information, there's not enough truth out there, and we need a plan, we need figures. Why are we bailing out the new owners, whoever they may be, that have had this property for how long? I don't understand why we, the taxpayers, why we have to bail them out. Okay, $2 million worth of fire inspection violations are due to our town, and we're going to bail them out, the owners? That's money that should be going into our town. So that's my question, and I don't know if you have an answer, but that's what I want to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments from the court?
Len Colosia, Great Gorge Village. I've been back and forth on this, and it took me a while to sign this petition. I eventually did, although it has some negatives to it as well. But I have to say that, Mr. Mayor, you at least quoted in the paper, I don't know if you misspoke there, but you know, instead of realizing, first of all, I have a question for the young lady who came up before. She said she didn't tell the mayor that she used stock photos. So when the mayor said that these were all pictures taken from Camp Sussex, did you correct the mayor?
At that time, I did not.
Okay.
Thank you.
When stuff like that happens, it has an air of your credibility is at risk, and to compound that, Mr. Mayor, when you were quoted in the paper demeaning Gary and some of the people who have spoken out again, that's just sour grapes, and I you should have come out and said, you know what, we screwed up, we messed up, I'm going to correct it immediately. But yet, it's still out there. And that is why you have this mistrust from these people. You know, it's like action A equals consequence B, plus consequence B equals result C. Well, it was your action, okay? It was that misrepresentation. Now, you don't like consequence D. Well, if you don't like that, then don't do A. It's so simple to me. So anyway, my question again, I won't question her because I know she can't answer, but you said there's plenty of money in the open space fund to purchase this property, correct? Is there enough money to finish it? I'm sure you don't have that number, okay, because that's going to be well beyond, my guess is, well beyond what you have on hand. You also said there's no oil tanks in the ground. Is there asbestos? Is there lead paint? Is there other hazardous materials? Do you know that for sure? So you give the impression that, well, there's no oil tanks, so we're all okay. No, that's just going to be part of this huge cost. And I agree with this lady here. I love the idea of an art thing somewhere. Okay, I think that would be great. I don't know about up there. But again, your impression is critical to us. What you guys say and do is critical. So when you screw up, okay, and keep that picture out there, and I don't know how many other ones are stock, that's what happens, okay? This is the problem, and that's why I signed that petition. I don't trust you guys as far as I can throw that bear statue, okay? And I really mean it, and I wish I could. I'm just afraid. You guys make me nervous. Thank you.
Are there any additional comments? I believe you've, Mr. Gary, I believe you've already spoken. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Oliver.
I really wasn't planning to speak. Sorry, Robert Oliver, Vernon. Really wasn't planning to speak, but I've heard so much tonight. To be honest, I really can't make up my mind about Camp Sussex, and I'll be candid, I didn't think that any decision had been made. I thought that at this point we were, or the council and the mayor were on a fact-finding mission to see what it would cost, to see what the benefits are to buying it, and then to make a decision. And if I'm right in that assumption, I've got to admit that I think that any petition is premature. And I'll make one other comment. I've also read what Carol Gunn-Kadish has said on NewJersey.com, and I must admit I was under the impression that, like me, she hadn't made a decision either. She thinks that it should be discussed by rational people based on its merits. And having said that, you know what, I think given the rhetoric that has gone on, I'm very dubious as to whether any referendum on this subject will lead to anything except the extremists on both sides screaming what we've already heard. I doubt there'll be any rational discussion. So for myself, I'm very happy for the council to make the decision, and I'm quite happy for the five individuals that are on this council to make that decision for me. And with that, I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments? If not, I'll ask for a motion to close the meeting to the public.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Kadish. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Wetzel. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, may we have your report, please?
Sure enough. Very briefly, Mr. Oliver said it quite clearly. There has been no decision made. I'm doing as I was directed, which is to negotiate with the owners and also do due diligence. When that amount of information is available, it'll be presented to the council and to the public. Secondly, this Friday we swore in 2 more police officers to the Vernon Township Police Department. Because of the way in which the 2 earlier young people were hired in terms of the year.
You can't hear?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes? Can you hear me now? This is a Verizon commercial. How about now?
A little better.
A little better? Let me get a little closer, see if that doesn't help. This Friday morning, we swore in 2 new officers to the Vernon Police Department. They began their training at the Morris County Academy today, and as you well know, we hired 2 earlier in the year. Our plan was to hire 2 in 2014 and 2 in 2015. Because of the time it took to get the first 2 hired and the budgeting that we actually put forward for 2014, we were able to hire the other 2 this year. Now, it's important for the council and the people to understand that from the time a new police officer is hired until they are able to, in fact, patrol on their own is a period of between 7 and 9 months. We know, based upon information from members of the Vernon Township Police Department that we are going to have some retirements early in 2015. And so as a result, our new chief and I sat down and began to plan to be sure that we had the manpower that we needed. We will, when the two young men graduate from the academy, we obviously will have a ceremony for them as we had for the young lady and young man that were hired earlier this year. And lastly, this evening's agenda has on it a resolution for the hiring of a new fire marshal. I'm calling it to your attention because we are under a directive from the State Department of Fire Prevention to, in fact, have someone on board by the end of this month. And we have selected a gentleman by the name of Louis Tosto. Mr. Tosto comes to us very, very well prepared with all the licenses. Beyond that, he sits on the Board of Review of Fire Inspectors in the state of New Jersey. He's experienced, and I do believe that he will do an excellent job for us, and so I hope you will look on his appointment favorably. That concludes my report.
All members of the council have received the copies of the minutes of our regular meeting of June 9th, of our work session of June 16th, and our regular meeting of June 23rd. Do I have a motion to place the minutes of June 9th on the floor for consideration?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kadish. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Murphy. Ms. Murphy. Are there any questions, comments, or deletions, revisions to the motion, meeting minutes of the meeting of June 9th? If not, I'll ask for a vote on the meeting minutes of June 9th. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Cady?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Carried to approve minutes.
For the work session minutes of June 16th, may I have a motion to place them on the floor for consideration?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kadish. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Murphy. Thank you. Are there any questions, comments, deletions, or revisions?
Yes, I'd like to
certainly
go to page 3 and delete the article that I had mentioned, 528-4. Just leave it blank.
Page 3.
Yeah, I mistakenly gave the wrong one.
Okay.
And instead of substituting, just pursuant to the township code.
All right. With the approval of the council, we will make that change? Fine. With that amendment, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Cady?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. For the meeting minutes of June 23rd, may I have a motion to place those minutes on the floor for consideration?
Motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Murphy.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kadish.
Councilmember Cady?
Yes.
Are there any, is there any revision, request for consideration or change on that? No? If not, ask for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Cady?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Motion carried to approve minutes.
Thank you. Moving to the consent agenda. We have a number of items on this agenda. We have Resolution 14-98, authorizing the application to the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs. The Police Department would like to pursue the applying of a grant through this department for the purchase of bulletproof vests. This resolution authorizes that application. Resolution 14-99, authorizing the use of the New Jersey State Contract Program for the development of a digital tax map. As previously noted, the township has been involved in the creation of digital tax maps, and funding for the same is necessary. This resolution authorizes the CFO to go forward utilizing the state contract for the development phase of creating the map. Resolution 14-100, authorizing the application for New Jersey Department of Community Affairs recreational opportunities for individuals with disabilities grant. Township has been lucky enough to previously receive this grant for individuals in the past. This grant authorizes the application for grant for 2015 so the township may provide therapeutic horseback riding for persons with disabilities. Resolution 14-101, authorizing fireworks to be displayed on August 3rd, 2014, within the township of Vernon in the area of the Highland for the Highland Lakes Country Club. They will be hosting the display, and they have met all the necessary prerequisite statute requirements. Resolution 14-102, extension of the 2014 third quarter tax grace period, due date only. Third quarter tax rate was certified to the tax collector late, which in turn has caused a delay in the mailing of the third quarter tax bills. As a result, the tax collector has requested an extension of the third quarter grace period for taxes due. This resolution authorizes that extension. Resolution 14-103, authorizing the award of contract for the municipal building elevator maintenance. Township needs to maintain the elevator located in the municipal building, and after solicitation of the required funds, Otis Elevator was found to be the lowest responsible bidder. Resolution 14-104, awarding a contract to CDW Group for computers-related hardware and software for our DPW. The DPW office is in need of upgrades to its computer and software systems. The contract would like to purchase the same through the state contract. This resolution authorizes the purchases of the computers and related backup through the state New Jersey contract program. Resolution 14-105, awarding a contract to Informational Professionals Incorporated, for software upgrades for our DPW. The township is in need of a software program to manage the public works requests, labor, and material. Township solicited the quotes for software to complete these requirements, and the lowest responsible bidders was Information Professionals. The resolution authorizes the purchase of the software program through that firm. Resolution 14-106, authorizing the issuance of not exceeding $2,066,000 of a bond anticipation notes of the Township of Vernon in the County of Sussex. Township adopted an ordinance 1412 at the June 23rd meeting, which authorized the sale of the bond. This resolution authorizes the CFO to go out for bid for the sale of bonds or bond anticipation notes in conjunction with that ordinance. Resolution 14-107, which appointing Registrar of Vital Statistics, pursuant to Section 5-45 of the Municipal Code and in accordance with NJSA 26:8-11 and 26:813, the municipal clerk shall serve as registrar of vital statistics. This resolution authorizes the clerk to be the registrar of vital statistics. And finally, Resolution 14-108, the appointment of Vernon Township Fire Marshal. Pursuant to state statute, the township is required to have a fire marshal. This resolution fills the vacancy in the office of fire marshal created since the end of the interlocal agreement with the township, that the township had with Hardiston Township. May I have a motion to adopt resolutions 14-98 through 14-108 and place them on the floor for consideration and discussion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kadesh. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Wetzel. Is there any questions or comments regarding the aforementioned resolutions? If not, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolutions 1498 through 14108.
Thank you very much. Introduction. This is a first reading for the proposed ordinance 14-14, an ordinance to amend Ordinance 1405. The building department has found that an ATV-type vehicle is better suited to their purposes rather than purchasing a pickup truck, which was authorized under 1405. This ordinance amends Ordinance 1405 to allow for the purchase of the ATV vehicle. May I have a motion to introduce this ordinance 14-14 for the public hearing to be held on July 28, 2014? Is there a
Excuse
question?
me, Mr. President, if I may? I'm not sure that they're asking for an ATV. My understanding is they want an SUV, like the cruisers that we've been buying for the police department.
Big difference.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
You can buy 10 of them.
right.
No, they're only asking
The
for one. Dan.
revision, this change in the ordinance create any problem with the funding?
No.
No, okay.
You've already funded it. What we're doing is changing the words of the
All right.
ordinance.
With the approval of the council, we'll accept that change, okay?
I just need to see, because I had this through the auditor first. I was told that it needs to read all-terrain vehicle building department through the township auditor and CFO.
I suppose a four-wheel drive pickup can be,
Yeah.
or SUV can be considered an all-terrain vehicle.
An SUV.
All-terrain vehicle, that's what I was told.
That may very well have been, but that's not what they're asking for. They're asking for an SUV, like the Ford Cruisers that we buy for, and that's why I'm calling it to your attention. If we need to amend this ordinance now, let's do it.
Fine. Will the amendment create a problem with the,
I sent it to the auditor, so
With the auditor.
I have to refer to it.
Right, and then we revised it again to say vehicular equipment, so it's more general. Because they wanted four-wheel drive, but we don't want it to say pickup, and we don't want it to say SUV.
Why can't you specifically use a brand and model number?
Because if we go to get.
In other words,
quotes and then-
Expedition or whatever vehicle you want.
Because then you're tied to that vehicle, and if we go to do our negotiation in getting a vehicle, and we say Explorer, and then we want,
would a four-wheel drive SUV vehicle satisfy the requirements of the ordinance?
well, that's what we said, vehicular equipment, and that just covers any kind of
Is
vehicle.
that acceptable to the council?
Well, the problem is the confusion. An ATV is a much smaller
Yeah.
four-wheel drive vehicle.
Like the Gator
In fact, they
that the
have them
police have.
set up for fire departments with
Right.
houses and everything else. They have them for life-saving, they have them for football games.
That's not what they want.
No, I thought the latest version said vehicular equipment, which would cover any kind of vehicle under that dollar amount.
Yep.
But
Why don't we do this? Since we are the council, since we are authorizing the purchase, why don't we simply state SUV, four-wheel type vehicle,
Perfect.
and handle it in that fashion? It's clear, it's concise, and they have to bid it to those specifications.
I just think that if you put in automobile rather than vehicle, he would avoid the confusion. But
SUV, four-wheel automobile? Fine with me? Okay.
yeah,
Acceptable?
Yeah.
Good. With that revision to the ordinance, and I believe the motion has the motion been made? No, it has? Yes, Mrs. Murphy?
I'll make it if it hasn't.
Okay, Mrs. Murphy?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Kadesh.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember West?
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce ordinance 1414 in the public hearing on July 28, 2014.
Thank you very much. Amendment of Ordinance 14-09. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 330 Land Development Ordinance to repeal Ordinance 13-10, which established Article 19 Highlands Preservation Area requirements, and replace it with Article 19 Highlands Preservation Area Land Use Ordinance to regulate development in the Highlands Preservation Area of the Township of Vernon. After a land use ordinance is introduced, it is required to be reviewed by the Land Use Board for conformity with the master plan. Upon review, the Land Use Board has asked for a minor amendment to Ordinance 1409. They have requested Article 9, Section 9.1.2, Highlands Act exemption, subsection C, Article 4, exemption designee be amended to reflect that exceptions can be made by the board planner, board engineer, and/or zoning officer, not just the board planner, as written in the current form of the ordinance. May I have this in the form of a motion for consideration?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Wetzel. Is there a second to the motion?
Just for clarification, we're talking about number 11?
Yes, item 11.
Yes.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kadesh. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember West?
Yes.
Motion carries to amend ordinance 1409.
Thank you. Following are for second readings. It's for public second reading of the ordinance 14-09, an ordinance amending 330 Land Development Ordinance to repeal 13-10, which established Article 19, the Highlands Preservation Area requirements, and replace it with Article 19, Highlands Preservation Area Land Use Ordinance to regulate development in the Highlands Preservation Area of the Township of Vernon. Township held a workshop meeting on May 5th to discuss the township adopting the Highlands Preservation Area Ordinance to bring the township in line with the Highlands Regional Master Plan. This ordinance will permit property owners who are developing in the Highlands area to come to the township for approval instead of the NJDEP or Highlands Council. This ordinance also implements the rules of the Highlands Act. The ordinance was introduced on June 9th, submitted to the Land Use Board for their review. Their comments are reflected in the amendments just discussed. May I have the motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 1409 as amended?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kadesh. Is there a second? May I second to this motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wetzel. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is open to the public for this particular item, and I see that we have with us this evening our town planner. Hello, how are you? Should any resident or council member have any comments or questions, please raise them. Seeing that there are no questions or comments, I will ask for a motion to close the meeting
Move.
on ordinance 1409 as amended. Moved by Mr. Kadesh. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wetzel. Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition. The motion passes. Council have any questions specifically on this item prior to requesting a call for passage? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adopt ordinance 1409 as amended. May I have a motion, please? Motion made by Mr. Wetzel. Second?
It's clear.
Seconded by Mr. Kadish.
Yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Kadish?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Motion carried to adopt ordinance 1409 as amended.
Thank you. Ordinance 14-10, this is an ordinance amending Chapter 330 Land Development Ordinance, Article 11, zoning, Section 330-158, the zoning map, to add 2 pages to the existing zoning map depicting the Highlands Preservation Area Overlay Zone and resource areas governed by Chapter 330. Article 19, the Highlands Preservation Area Land Use Ordinance. At the May 5th meeting, the council also discussed updating the zoning map in accordance with the new Highlands Ordinance. This ordinance adopts the updated zoning map in accordance with the new zoning regulations. The ordinance was introduced on June 9th, submitted to the Land Use Board for review, in which they noted it was in compliance with our master plan. May I have a motion to open the place on the floor for public hearing? Motion made by Mrs. Murphy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Kadish. Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Meeting is open to the public on this particular issue only. Is there any comment?
Would you describe the issue more clearly for us, please?
Yes, essentially what has happened, I'll tell you what, why don't we ask our township planner? She came all this way this evening, and rather than have her do it for come for no reason.
Council President, Council, Mayor, it's good to see you all. This is simply the map that implements the ordinance which was just adopted, which establishes regulations which we're required to adopt for the Highlands Preservation Area. So it's essentially overlay zones. So rather, we can't really put it on the existing map. We have 2 additional pages that show these overlay zones. There's some inset areas that show some of the areas around the lake where it's a little more difficult to see. And these are the overlay zones that were implemented by the ordinance that you just previously adopted.
Thank you.
Highland Lakes, all of the Highlands Preservation Area, which is the 66% in the Highlands region of the municipality.
These are the 2 overlay maps in question.
Mr. Rizzuto, does that increase the amount of property within that Highlands area?
Increase?
No, is it,
No,
we're
it
always
doesn't.
concerned about
Yeah.
how little property we have left. Does this increase it or reduce it?
It keeps it the same. We're just implementing the act. It's part of the requirements of the act that the ordinance be brought into the local ordinance. There are some benefits that the council president mentioned in the opening, and that we'll be able to complete some of the reviews here at the municipality rather than requiring anyone who wishes to do something with their land to go to the DEP or to go to the Highlands Council. But in terms of the regulations, this doesn't change anything. They're still the same. It doesn't add or reduce either, the amount.
May I have a motion to close the meeting to the public?
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Kadish. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Mr. Wetzel. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion to adopt
So
ordinance
moved.
14-10? Motion is made by Mr. Kadesh. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wetzel. Thank you. Roll call vote, please, if there's no further discussion.
Yes.
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 We have on the agenda ordinance 14-13, a refunding bond ordinance authorizing the issuance of $5,600,000 of refunding bonds of the Township of Vernon in the County of Sussex. In 2006, the township had issued a bond which is now issued for refunding. This ordinance authorizes the township to refund the bond at substantial savings to the township. The township requires that before municipality, the state requires that before municipality may refund a bond, that it must save at least 3% over the life of the bond. At this point, the savings to the township appears to be closer to 5%. As you may recall, the township held a workshop meeting on June 16th regarding this matter, and the ordinance was introduced at our June 23rd meeting. Let me emphasize, this does not increase our outstanding bonded indebtedness. It only takes an existing bond, recalls it, and reissues it, goes out for a quote at lower rates. And based upon our bond counsel, Hawkins, Delafield, and Wood, who are perhaps the premier bond counselors in the area, following in their lead, I think it's the smart and the wise thing to do, and I believe the council has agreed previously with that. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to have the ordinance open for a public hearing.
Motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Murphy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kadesh. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The meeting is open to the public on this particular issue only. Thank you.
So, Bill, have we saved even more than the last time? What's the interest rate?
We are, we can do it. It keeps changing. It's a floating number. So we went to try to do it before the Federal Reserve decided
Are there any other questions? May I have a motion to close the meeting, the public hearing on this particular ordinance? Moved by Mr. Kadesh, seconded by Mr. Wetzel. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting closed to the public. May I have a motion to adopt ordinance 14-13?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Kadesh. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wetzel. Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Kadesh?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt ordinance 14-13.
Thank you very much. For the record, Mr. Zuckerman, approximately how much would that save?
200 and something thousand.
I think it was close to
280, 290.
290, closer to almost 300.
Almost 300.
And that's
depending on
after
the
all expenses for the issue itself.
That's correct.
Okay.
And there are no taxpayer expenses except for our CFO's time and a little bit of the clerk's time and to advertise it. Those are the only.
Actually, we're looking almost over the period of 7 years, the cost of the tax point.
It'll be about one tax point.
Thank you. Resolution requiring a separate action, resolution determining the form of general refunding bonds of 2014 for the Township of Vernon, the County of Sussex, New Jersey, and determining certain details in connection therewith. Prior to issuing the refunding bonds as authorized by Ordinance 1413, The township must approve the form as well as give notice of the refunding of the 2006 bond. This resolution authorizes the CFO to give notice of the refunding as well as the basic form thereof. This resolution could not be adopted until after the ordinance 1413 was approved, which is why it is out of typical order on the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt this resolution 14-09?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Kadesh. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wetzel. Are there any questions or comments? Not, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Dean?
Yes.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes.
Councilmember Wetzel? Yes. Motion carries to adopt resolution 14.
Thank you for a swift ride through the agenda, gentlemen and ladies. Council comments. Mrs. Murphy.
Let's see. I just thought I would, sorry to drag some people through this, but just to kind of give a little bit of an overview of a question I had had in the beginning with this entire Camp Sussex was who owned it. And just to let everyone know that I did my due diligence at that time. I won't start from the May time when this first came up, but from the June 9th meeting, when the mayor mentioned that I should check with the county clerk because the deed was there. I called the county clerk the following day on the 10th. I spoke to Jeff Parrott. The deed for Empire Tax Fund, TFI, was not there. On the 12th of June, let's see, no, I'm sorry, on the 11th, what I did is I contacted State Superior Court, and there is where I located the judgments, actually, because TFI did have to go through tax foreclosure, so they in fact had to sue the people that had liens on Camp Sussex. I was able to get copies of those judgments. The following day, on the 12th, which was a Thursday, I visited the county sheriff's department along with the judgments and asked, can I now see copies of these deeds? They'll show them to you. They don't give you any copies, but they'll show them to you. So I went, I verified, found out that the tax foreclosure, in fact, on the 88 parcel took place on February 19th. On March 19th, the sheriff prepared a deed. The deed was mailed out to their attorney, Pellegrino, on April 3rd. So there I was now, June 12th, the deed still had not been recorded. That was Thursday. That Tuesday, soon after, just a few short days after, the deed did finally get recorded at the county, at the clerk's office on June 17th. So I just wanted to clarify that all along, if anybody was being told that the deed was recorded, it was not. Now it's recorded, so when, maybe now that the owner is actually stating, well, they did not want people accessing it, it's because now they are, in fact, the owner of record. Just because they were holding the deed, they were still not showing it recorded. So I just wanted to make that clarification. But with that also, now that they have, in fact, filed that deed, I do agree with some of the people where, in fact, they need to secure it now. They need to clean up the property. I was there. I did take that tour with the 50-some-odd people on that Saturday. There was a lot of debris there. It would appear that a contractor possibly went and dumped some things. There looked like hoses and possibly pallets that were tossed. Looked like there was a case of wine, empty wine bottles that was dropped. A lot of graffiti, things thrown all over. It almost gave the appearance also in some of the areas that there was possibly paintball. Kids found a place to go shoot their paintball guns. But needless to say, the camp is there. I don't know that a lot of people were even aware the camp was there until all of this came out, because that's one of the things that's happened. A lot of people that were around, I could tell you, they really had no idea that the camp was there. People that were here for years, you know it, you drive by it, you see things happening now and then. But anyhow, now that they have actually recorded it, the town will have I don't know if it'll be the new fire inspector, I don't know if it's the zoning officer.
But now these new owners that have now actually taken responsibility for the property, they will need to do something. And there was evident, it would appear also that possibly somebody went through and took out a lot of the copper piping that was in these places. As far as oil tanks, I know that Bev mentioned that there were no underground oil tanks. I know that there was a shower, the shower room there. I was told that there is an underground oil tank there. Now, if it was removed, I don't know if anybody has any documentation that it was removed, but it was not removed. But one other thing I wanted to get back to the judgments is that I questioned whether or not the township liens from the fire official, whether or not they were still there. Now, when that tax foreclosure happened, all of the defendants that had liens on the property were all listed. And I did actually speak to a few of them. But Vernon Township was not listed as a defendant. So the fire official liens run with the property. They were not part of that tax foreclosure because they're not listed as defendants. And from what I read from a fire official book from the code, it said that those fines run with the property. Now, do I have all the information? No, but I've gone out and I've actually done my due diligence. I've gone and I've chased it down, and that's what I've come up with. So that's about it for that. What I'd also like to do is I'd also like to find out about getting our council meetings on the website. I know the mayor has referenced that he's in charge of our township website. I disagree. Mr. Kelly, I would really like to find out what the stipulation is here about getting our, what's the rule about getting our council meetings on the website? I don't know why it should be a big deal. I don't really care if your show's on there, but I just think it's ridiculous that the public cannot see it. Good, bad, or indifferent, the meetings should be on there. They're filmed. It's a township website. Put the meetings on. There's time to take snippets. I've seen you take snippets and put them on your show, so you can certainly get the council meetings on. And I don't know why the council would not want them on there. That's just, all we're doing is we're here for the people of the town, and we should make it easy for them to be able to access this website. It's crazy.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any
I
comments?
have a question of the attorney. When does the ownership take place in a sheriff's sale?
When the judgment of foreclosure is entered.
Entered by the judge?
Right.
Okay.
In the court case.
Very good. I'd like to respond to Mrs. Murphy. The issue of the town meetings being on the website has been addressed several times. You sat here when you were a private citizen. The issue is that the software that's used by the company that films these is a proprietary software, and while we do get a CD, the conversion of it to be able to have it on our website is not possible. We don't have the software to do it. If you'd like to recommend buying that software or some other alternative, I'm certainly willing to entertain that. I have no reason to keep it off of the website other than it was physically impossible to do. And it's been visited about 4 or 5 times over the last 3 years.
Well, I certainly think it would be worthwhile finding out what the cost is for a software. I mean, that's...
I heard you.
That should be a simple...
Please, your meeting is closed to the public.
That should be a simple fix, because quite honestly, I have to agree with a lot of the public. It's this side, it's that side, it's going back and forth. It's a big waste of time with a lot of the arguments and everything else going on, and it has to stop. It has to stop somewhere.
Couldn't agree with you more.
And the council has to take the effort to try to stop some of this. It's crazy. But that would be great if we could just find out what the cost is and then make the decision, because the meeting should be offered to everyone to be able to see. Not everybody can get out. But like I said, they want to view your YouTube, that's fine. I don't really care. But as long as the township council meetings are there, they're available, the cameras are here, it should be done. One of the other things that I was looking to revisit is this Resolution 1402 that we voted on in January that was actually altered and advertised. I'd like to see us go back to the original version that we voted on. I did actually call Ms. Nelson, the day after that meeting that I brought it up, and I asked her why, or who authorized her to change that resolution. She couldn't remember. Needless to say, I would just really like to go back to the version we voted on instead of the altered one, because nobody could tell me how that got changed. You may not have been here, but in the resolution, it states formal action may be taken at regular council meetings or work sessions. The one we voted on did not say or work sessions.
I strongly urge you to talk to the council president, ask him to bring forward a resolution, asking the council to reaffirm that position. In the meantime, every time we've had a work session, the council's interests and the public interests have been covered by the statement that formal action may be taken. I would ask the township attorney to ask if we have acted inappropriately.
I never said that. What I'm saying, the inappropriate act was it was altered from what we voted on. And I don't believe we should just go ahead and accept an altered document. What's the point of voting then?
As I said, you have a perfect right to speak with Mr. Lynch and ask him to bring forward a resolution to...
And I also did call the DCA to speak to Mr. Kaminsky regarding the clerk's action, so I'm in communication with him also. Because I said to him, I don't feel that, that's why I called her, just to find out.
I'm sure she will appreciate that. Thank you. Is there any other comments?
No, that's...
I'm going to respond a little bit to Bill's comments and to Heather's comments, as I did the last time. 15 years ago, Bill, or maybe it was 17 years ago, you came forward with this idea. And I think I mentioned at that point, I initiated a Council of the Arts in Jersey City Heights. I initiated Hoboken Fine Arts. I was the head director of the trustees of the William Chase Dance Theater, and have been actively involved in the arts all my life. And I think you well understand that the only way some kind of energy is going to take place is if entire groups get together. I was also a panelist on the New Jersey Arts Council. So it's necessary to have leadership, and that leadership has to be formed to bring together all the interest that's necessary for an enterprise that you have in mind. And it should not fall on the shoulders of the taxpayers and mold it into a kind of positive thing to go forward with. And all this backbiting and criticizing is not helping. Using drug needles as an impetus for buying property is a crazy idea. It's just the wrong approach. But when you have a good idea and all sorts of people get together to form an organization and work toward an objective, you'll have a success.
May I respond, please? May I say one thing, if I may? You know, we tried to do that with the idea of getting an art center on the town square road, and it didn't happen, and the road is dead, and it would be very alive if we had done that, you know. But what I want to trace it in terms of this issue, and also the issue, Mr. Rizzuto, regarding cost of everything over time, I want to suggest to you that both things will be happening if there is township council support, even if some township money is involved in acquiring that property and getting it started. And once something happens there that didn't happen at the town square, that is, it gets started. Not only does it get started, but there's a building there, a theater building there, to start it with. And I can't tell you how many people are going to jump on board once they see that it actually is happening and they can contribute, including the fact that the Highland Stage is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that can, on the basis of that, acquire grants to help. There's just all kinds of support that can come. But it's got to get started. And I might suggest, I believe, honestly, it has to get started by a decision of the council.
Thank you.
May I make a comment, since he did?
Do you have any further comments, Mr. Kadish?
At the moment, no, I have other comments to make, but...
Spirit of fairness, Ms. Owens, yes?
I would like to make a comment going back to the council meetings being online. It's very easy to take that tape there, encode it, and link it to YouTube, just like the mayor does with his show, which is free. You can download the encoder free. It wouldn't cost the town one dime and take approximately 3 minutes.
Have you ever heard of the word copyright?
Is that so?
Have you ever heard of the word copyright?
Copyright?
Copyright.
The town purchased that tape, why can't they do it?
Okay.
Can you look into that?
Thank you. Take it under advisement, Ms. Owens. Mr. Wetzel.
Yeah, I've listened to the pros and the cons about Camp Sussex, and I think we're all putting the cart before the horse.
Yes.
There's no decision has been made by this council, with the exception of asking the mayor to look into the price of the camp. Not whether we're going to buy it, whether we're going to rent it, what we're going to do with it. That's the only thing we have asked the mayor to do. Find out a price and any other information. As far as the arts are concerned, the arts in this area are busting at the seams. Newton Theater, you can't get in because of all the different productions, entertainers, etc., that are appearing there on the weekend. Sussex Community College, concerts, Thursday night, free. SRO crowds. High Point State Park, concerts, free. SRO state parks. Sparta. Everything is around us. We don't have diddly. So again, you know, the arts, yeah, I agree with Mr. Donald. A lot of money is spent on athletics. I was a baseball coach here, I was a football coach in town, and I was all pro athletics. But there are other things aside from athletics.
That people love. Things that an awful lot of people love.
Please, please.
Gary's talked about Thomas Jefferson. Well, I'm going to talk about Alexander Hamilton. And Hamilton said the people is a beast. And I'll end with that.
Thank you, Mr. Wetzel. My good friend, Mr. Wetzel, has a way of reducing things to their essence, and I appreciate it. I couldn't have said it better. The only direction that has been given the mayor is to go out and enter into negotiations, not to execute anything, simply to find out what the terms and conditions of a purchase would be, much as anybody else would do if they were to buying any other form of real estate. He is not empowered to make any commitment. He is not empowered to develop any type of purchase program. He is not empowered to proceed any further than that, other than coming back to the council when he has all of the information available. You know, I could not help but shake my head when I heard Mr. Kadish say, you know, we need this type of a situation should not be borne by the taxpayer. You have to get somebody else on board for the arts. I've never considered myself as an arts person, but I do consider myself a person that has, I feel, a rather equitable outlook on sports and things that are other than athletic. Township has gone a long way in supporting athletics for its students, not only at the high school level and grammar school level, but also with our own recreational programs. And I brought forth a request to the mayor, just to simply to price out something that I thought might be advantageous to our senior citizens, which was a band shell. I had seen it in a number of communities. I thought it might be of, of an advantage to have it in the township of Vernon. And certainly now, with the availability of the building that houses a stage and an area of common meeting at this Camp Sussex, if you have seen it, there's an opportunity to build on that and offer what I believe a way of developing a place where we can have passive recreation. Now, I don't even know what we're looking at in terms of cost. I don't know what's available to the council, to the township, in the way of any outside support. I'm waiting to hear that. And yet what has happened has been a divisive situation within the township once again, and the township seems to be blamed for it by simply saying, go out and find out how much. We can't ask an elected member of our community to do what is authorized under our municipal code. It's ludicrous. So I would only say, and Council President Lynch is not here, but he stated it so well, only in Vernon can you politicize a walnut, and I think he's stated it quite well. We need to move back from this one side or the other and try and look at what's better for our community. I took part in the passage of referendum for the construction of 2 schools that were significantly much more expensive than what we're talking about right now, plus the additions. I took part in going to my neighbors' homes and explaining the situation. Took part in hosting town meetings, asking people to come up. Now, you're talking about needles. That's not the issue. That's not the issue at all. That place is a blight on our community. It's terrible. And while Mrs. Murphy said some people didn't even know it was there, and was it you, I believe?
Yes, it was.
Now they're finding out about it. It makes it only worse. And I think it's incumbent upon a governing body to at least try to do something about it. Believe me, if it goes down, as the saying goes, we've tried, then somebody else is going to have to be saddled with that responsibility. But I think we need to approach it with a vision of what it could be, what it can be for our community. I sit up here, I'm 70 years old. I don't know how much time I have left, either here or on this earth. But I do know that I think what we as a council do can definitely affect our community 10, 20, 30 years hence. It's the same reason why I and my good friend Mr. McGowan voted on construction of schools, because we knew what was necessary at the time. And I look at this and I say, perhaps this is necessary. And I ask people to join with me in a rational mind, my friend Mr. Wetzel, my good friend Mr. Lynch. And I ask Mr. Kadish and Mrs. Murphy to join with me in an open mind and look at what is available, what it will cost, what can be done. Is it available through open space? What are we going to do with over $1 million that sits in that account? Are we going to try and buy farms again? For what reason? The state has taken that necessity away from us by the use of the Highlands Act. So why should we duplicate what's being done for us by the state? Let's use those funds for something else, or for God's sakes, let's give it back to the people who contributed to the fund, if possible. I think this is an opportunity for us to do good. And there's nothing wrong with trying to do good. And asking people to come in and picnic, have some time for reading, enjoying a garden, putting on a repertoire theater, That's as important to those people as I am sure is a football game or a baseball game or a lacrosse game is to another segment of our society. And that is what I think this council is supposed to do. Thank you. May I ask, may I ask for a motion to adjourn?
I wanted to mention something else. On Wednesday, Mountain Creek, they're holding a meeting.
Very good point. Thank you.
They're holding a meeting on the water park. I believe it's at the Appalachian at 7 p.m.
Right. This coming Wednesday.
It's this Wednesday. It's at 7 p.m. And my point with that is it's nice that they're doing that, but this was proposed back in September. The mayor, I've read in the newspaper, the mayor is in the process of preparing an ordinance, but yet we still have received nothing. I'm just wanted to bring that point that the council, to my knowledge, since I've been here, we've heard nothing from Mountain Creek on this water park. They've come here with nothing. There is a meeting on July 16th, which is this Wednesday at 7 p.m., and the mayor is actually preparing an ordinance to bring forward.
I think the mayor was asked again to go out to negotiations.
Well, that was in September.
Yes.
That was in September.
Negotiations don't necessarily happen overnight.
No, I didn't say that, and I'm not even saying anything against the mayor. What I'm saying is Mountain Creek has not brought anything to the council yet. I'm still waiting to hear about a pilot program.
We
Yes,
heard the first phase, the first...
But I just would like to, I'm reiterating that because I'd like the public to know that even though Mountain Creek is hosting this meeting, not to think that we've received anything, because we have not. We've received nothing. And since you're bringing up blights, this is a picture of the Faline building, okay, with broken out windows right at our town center. So when people come into town, okay, and I was sparing this because I did not want to go on and on and on.
I'm sure.
But since we're going to talk about blights, in the middle of our town center, here is the Faline building with broken out windows. This is what everyone sees when they drive into town. And this is how it sits, and it sits for years. Something should be, the town owns this. We paid over $400,000 during that construction.
Much?
I believe it was over $400,000 for this building.
$130,000 for that piece of property, a third of an acre?
Whatever. But this was part of Main Street. But there it sits, the blight. The sign finally came down, the one that says that it's up for auction. And lastly, what I would like to say is, I know I did hear a lot of people discussing about posting and people posting, and they namely spoke about Mrs. Kadish posting. I would like to, I will not bring up the items, but I will mention that some of our elected officials take to the post themselves on Facebook, and that's not appropriate. And they are actually, there have been some disparaging lately things about Mr. Kadish that should not be written, and especially by the elected officials. And if we're going to start to set an example for the people of this town, it needs to start here. That's all I have to say.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Murphy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kadish. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye? Motion carries.